That afternoon, Willow Creek went silent, not because of weather, but because a secret, 25 years buried, was finally about to scream. She was called the Maid, but today she was the mother of a Harper. And in this town, bloodlines meant everything. In the quiet town of Willow Creek, people whispered about one woman, Grace Miller, the quiet maid. Every morning, she walked up the long hill toward the Harper mansion, a lunchbox in one hand, her daughter's tiny fingers in the other. The path was steep, but Grace never slowed. Her uniform was always pressed, her smile faint but steady. Neighbors watched from behind curtains. Poor Grace, they'd say, cleaning that same house since high school. But Grace didn't mind. She believed in something stronger than pity. She believed in purpose. Lena, her daughter, was bright, always asking questions too big for her age. She dreamed of being a nurse, to help people, to heal what life had broken. But what broke her most was seeing how her mother bowed her head every time Mrs. Harper spoke. Grace would smile and whisper, "Baby, dignity doesn't come from where you work. It comes from how you work." Those words lived in Lena's heart like scripture. For years, their life was simple: work, school, dinner, sleep. Until one ordinary afternoon began to change everything. The day felt normal, but fate was waiting. It started with laughter. Not Grace's laughter, but Daniel Harper's, the son she'd helped raise since he was a child. That laugh would soon tear open a secret buried for 25 years. Because sometimes, the quietest people in town carry the loudest truths. At the Willow Creek College Fair, Lena stood proudly beside her classmates, holding a brochure that said, "Future Nurse Program." It was supposed to be her day, her turn to dream. But a familiar laugh broke through the crowd. Daniel Harper, the boy her mother once fed, tucked in, and prayed for like her own. He leaned against a table with his friends, talking about the help as if they were jokes instead of people. His voice carried across the hall. "Funny thing," he said. "Mom says Grace practically raised me. Maybe I should put her on the family tree." That sound burned into Lena's chest. She turned away, but something inside her cracked. Pride, once quiet, began to whisper, "Enough." A week later, the Harper mansion door closed on Grace's career. Mrs. Harper stood cold and proper, her pearls glinting like frost. "You scratched the antique mahogany table," she said flatly. $10,000, irreplaceable." Grace's voice trembled. "No, ma'am. I've cared for that table longer than I've cared for my own hands." But the verdict was already written. No check, no notice. Just humiliation wrapped in silence. She walked home that night in the dark, carrying her uniform folded in her arms like a body. Lena found her mother sitting on the couch, staring at nothing, her eyes empty, her hands shaking. Grace whispered, "They threw me out, like I never existed." That night, Lena made a promise, not to forgive, not to forget, but to uncover why this always happened, and to prove her mother's worth. She opened her laptop, searched one phrase, DNA test kits, results for family history. She didn't know it yet, but that click would awaken ghosts buried deep in the Harper mansion. 3 weeks later, the email arrived. New DNA match found. Daniel Harper, 50% sibling. Lena froze. Her heartbeat roared louder than the rain outside. She called her mother into the kitchen. Grace read the screen, her hands trembling. "I told him never to know," she whispered. Lena demanded the truth, and Grace, with eyes heavy from years of silence, finally spoke. 25 years ago, she worked nights cleaning the Harper estate. Mr. Harper, charming, powerful, had a way of turning kindness into control. One night, his charm became something darker, and Grace left before anyone found out she was pregnant. She raised Lena alone. She never told a soul. And all these years, she had been cleaning the same house, just to keep her daughter close to the life that should have been hers. Sad Lena felt the floor slip beneath her. The walls of her world rearranged in a single breath. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered. Grace's eyes glistened. "Because you deserve to know me for who I am, not what he did." They sat in silence as the storm beat against the windows. The hum of the fridge sounded louder than truth itself. Lena printed the DNA report. The paper shook in her hands, and without another word, she packed her coat, stepped into the rain, and walked toward the Harper mansion. Each step felt heavier than the last, each breath a promise to end the silence. Because in Willow Creek, some secrets don't stay buried. They wait, they breathe, and when the time is right, they scream. Rain still lingered over Willow Creek when Lena reached the Harper mansion. The driveway shimmered under streetlight reflections. Inside, the echo of laughter faded into silence. Mrs. Harper was hosting a charity luncheon. Pearls, wine glasses, perfect manners. And then the doors opened, and Lena walked in. Her shoes left wet prints on the marble floor. Every eye turned toward her. She placed an envelope on the dining table, her voice steady but trembling at the edges. "You fired the wrong maid," she said softly. "You fired your husband's daughter." The room went silent. Gasps followed like thunder rolling across porcelain plates. Daniel stood frozen, eyes wide, disbelief crawling over his face. Grace entered next, calm, composed, wearing the same uniform she'd once been shamed in. Her hands didn't shake this time. "I didn't come for revenge," Grace said, "just for truth." Mr. Harper's face turned pale. He opened his mouth. No words came out. Mrs. Harper's expression cracked like glass under pressure. No shouting followed, just silence, sharp and heavy, the kind that changes everything. Days passed. The story spread through Willow Creek faster than any rumor before it. Some called it scandal, others called it justice. Grace didn't return to clean that mansion again. But when the estate was sold a month later, something changed. She didn't fight for revenge. She fought to reclaim her dignity, to remind her daughter that silence is not the same as peace. Daniel visited once, quietly, without cameras or reporters. He left flowers on the porch and said, "Thank you for raising me right, even when I didn't know who you were." Grace didn't reply. She just nodded, eyes shining, as if forgiveness was something she'd already given long ago. That night, as the town lights flickered on, Grace whispered the same words she'd said 1,000 times before. "Dignity doesn't come from where you work. It comes from how you work." And in that quiet house, once filled with struggle, there was finally peace. Adam, narration, final line. Some truths don't destroy families. They reveal who the family always should have been. She didn't fight for revenge. She fought to reclaim her dignity, to remind her daughter that silence is not the same as peace. Daniel visited once, quietly, without cameras or reporters. He left flowers on the porch and said, "Thank you for raising me right, even when I didn't know who you were." Grace didn't reply. She just nodded, eyes shining, as if forgiveness was something she'd already given long ago. That night, as the town lights flickered on, Grace whispered the same words she'd said 1,000 times before. "Dignity doesn't come from where you work. It comes from how you work." And in that quiet house, once filled with struggle, there was finally peace. Don't destroy families. They reveal who the family always should have been. Grace never sought revenge. She simply reclaimed her worth. And in Willow Creek, people finally learned the difference between money and value.